In this video, I'm going to show you how to measure walls so that you can place architectural features on the drawing of your floor plan. And so in this first slide, we're looking at something we've seen before, which is, of course, the outline of the walls and their offset of 6 inches for this floor plan. And of course, it's a great scan with labels in the right places, and you can still see the boxes of the graph paper behind. And so you can see here on the left, you've got a floor plan view showing an arrow measuring the length of the north wall. And then next to it, of course, we've got the photograph of the man measuring the overall length of the north wall without paying any attention to the location of the architectural features yet. And then you can see on the far right picture a photograph of the tape measure of what he sees. And so, of course, we know that this overall length of the wall is 11 feet 6 inches, or 11 and a half feet. And you can see on the floor plan on the left, of course, that there's 11 and a half boxes filled in for the length of that wall. So the next thing we need to do is determine how to measure and draw the architectural features. And so it's really important for an interior designer to know where and how to draw architectural features, because oftentimes they will orient the furniture in response to these architectural features. And so it's important to know kind of where they start and stop. In this case, we're going to look at, again, the north wall, and we've already got an overall dimension. And so now what you can see here on the left is our finished floor plan, which again, we'll complete all the steps a little bit later. But you can see here the arrow, the red arrow on the left side indicates the measurement from the corner of the wall to the outside casing of the window. And that's the dimension that you can see on the top right photograph. Of course, you can see what this man sees on his tape measure, which is 18 inches, or 1 foot 6 inches, or 1.5 feet. And that's the distance from the drywall. And that's, important for us to know if we need to hang a piece of art there or a little shelf or something like that. For the second arrow, the blue one, this one indicates the width of the window. Now, the window itself, of course, is made up of casing and glass. But for our purposes in a very simplified floor plan like this, we're really just measuring from casing to casing. So outside of casing to outside of casing. And so you can see on the photograph of the man measuring, he's measuring where the blue arrow indicates, which is from the outside casing of the window to the outside of the casing. And you can see his tape measure says 78 inches, or 6 feet 6 inches, or 6.5 feet. And so you can see on the floor plan here, the window is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.5 boxes wide, or the blue arrow is 6.5 boxes wide. Now, in a floor plan view of a window, all we do to indicate the window in a very simplified version of a plan like this is we leave the outline of the wall thickness as is. We draw a line in the middle indicating the mullion between the two windows themselves, because there's two windows here set in this frame. And then right inside there, there's two very thin lines close to each other that indicate the thickness of the glass. And then, of course, on either side of that, where it's drywall, we've pochade or filled in the wall, and that's how we can tell where the window starts and stops. And so finally, you can see here the green arrow on the floor plan, and of course, the green arrow on the photograph of the man measuring goes from the outside casing to the corner. And you can see what his tape measure says, 42 inches, or 3 feet 6 inches, or 3.5 feet. And you can see here, of course, that the distance from the window edge to the corner between the north wall and the east wall is 3.5 boxes wide. And so what you do is just kind of go very, very slowly, measuring the overall length and then those interim dimensions of the architectural features, casing to casing, drywall to corners, all the way around the space until you have enclosed it. And you can see here, for example, the next wall that would be measured here is the east wall. And you can see my red arrow starts in the corner. There's a little bit of overlap there, but it starts in the corner. And we measure all the way to the casing of the door here, as you can see. Okay, and then you can see casing to casing of the door, and there's just a little itty bitty bit of drywall right there that kind of accommodates for baseboards and you know, thicknesses of drywall and casing, etc. But you can see, I don't have a photograph of the tape measure here, but I bet you can guess what the tape measure says just by counting the boxes on this floor plan. And so you continue to just measure around the exterior features, leaving openings for where the windows are and leaving openings where the threshold for the door is. You can see here, this is open where the thresholds of the door is. And you'll see later how to draw a correct door swing and of course bypass doors like this. But for right now, you know at the very least how to create an overall measurement for the wall and then subdivide that overall measurement to note and place the architectural features on a building shell. In this video, I'm going to show you how to transfer the dimensions for the architectural features onto your floor plan. And so we'll go ahead and start on that north wall once again. And we know that there was a 1.5 feet of drywall between the corner over here and the casing of the window. So I just start by drawing a line right there, okay? And we know the windows themselves are 6.5 feet wide, so we've got our half right there, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then of course I'm going to split the difference here between the two of them, and that happens right about here. Okay, and it's going to be really hard to get two lines inside that area and close together and straight. So it's going to take some practice, but just do your best. And again, we're going to go over this in pen at the very end. Okay. And then for this corner, of course, there's no other architectural features, but then we come around here and we've got a door swing, and that happens, there's just a little bit of casing right here, a little bit of drywall, I mean, a little bit right there. And then I always draw all my doors at 3 feet wide. So that's ADA compliant, so the Americans with Disability Acts, it allows us to get a wheelchair through the door. And it's just generally good design, even if it's not required in a residence. Again, it's really important to kind of give more space when it allows. So I'm going to just draw another horizontal line here. And all I'm doing, if I refer to my examples, I'm just drawing these lines that are subdividing here. Okay, now the next one I'm going to do is this, these are called bypass doors. And so you can see here, this door slides this way to open this area, and this one slides this way to open that area. And all you really do to start is you start by creating that vertical line for the, to indicate the start of the door. And then we want to make sure that these each are 3 feet wide. So there's going to actually be one vertical line right here, and then another one here. And then all we have to do is go ahead and, oops, I'm drawing on the wrong sheet. Here, let me go ahead and replace those lines. Okay, so then here, all I want to do is just kind of eyeball where the center of that, this void is in the wall thickness. And I'm going to try to draw a nice straight line across, just like that. Okay, and then what I'm going to do eventually is I'm going to go ahead and erase those lines, but I'm not going to do it now because I don't have a great eraser, but also I want to make sure that I have everything nice and crisp when I ink it over, and then I can erase everything all at the same time. So you can see here our bypass doors. All I'm going to do is erase this line on this section and this line on that section. Okay, and then I'm just moving in a clockwise direction just because it's easier for me to keep that straight in my mind, make sure I don't miss anything. We've got another 3 foot wide door here. Okay, and then again, this is all going to be pochade in or filled in with solid black. So I'm going to just draw, notice how I'm putting the pencil where I want it, and then I'm moving the straight edge to it. And that's so that the straight edge accommodates for the thickness of the lead. Okay, and then we got the same thing over here, another set of bifold doors. So there's just a little bit of casing. There's always a little bit of casing. Here you can see here, always a little bit of like
mass in the corners here. You can't stick a door right up against the corner. So there's always a little bit of that. Okay, so then you can see I've got another 3 foot wide opening here. Actually, let's look. These doors are 2.5. You can see from the plan, from my measurements here. They're 2.5. So this opening is only 5. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and a little bit of change. See, the thickness right here is the thickness that I have to apply over here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 right there. Okay, and then I'm going to split the difference. Oops, it's a little off center. That's okay. I'll draw it again like that. Okay, and then again, nothing happening in this corner over here because that's all just drywall. So the next thing I want to teach you to do is use your circle template to create doors. And there's several standard doors in this floor plan. And so there's a very, very specific way of how to draw them. And a trained eye can tell if they're not drawn correctly. So the first thing you need to know if we look at this example is this opening here is the threshold of the door. This line is called the door swing, and that's what's created if you tied a pencil to the bottom of the front part of the door and you opened the door and it drew on the floor. That's the line it would create. And we draw that because we want to make sure that we know that there's nothing in the way of the door swing. New doors, we always draw them at 90 degrees open. If we were drawing a renovation plan and there was existing doors that were going to stay, we draw those at 45, but that's really outside of the scope of this class. What I want you to know for sure is that you draw always the door open like this at 90 degrees. And so you can see here, this is the actual door thickness. They're usually about 1 inch thick, so don't draw them too thick. 1 inch thick is plenty. And these are even probably a little thicker than they need to be. But notice, this is also the same length as this, okay? Because when this closes, it fits right in that slot right there. Okay, so always make sure that this opening is 3 feet and the length of this is 3 feet. And then you just need to draw your quarter arc. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just draw the doors themselves right here first. And I'm gonna make sure that they're 3 feet, okay? Because all my doors here are 3 feet. And notice how they start, the outer face of the door starts right at that corner. And they sit in because the actual door itself, that's exactly how the face of a door is. So you're going to do the same thing here. Okay, and of course I'm paying attention to the swing of the doors, whether they open in or open out. And as you're drawing these things, it can be kind of helpful to pay attention to that because it'll help you sort of figure out eventually sort of how doors work. They come in, certain ones open in, certain ones open out, and it makes sense why they open in the direction that they do. Okay, so I've got my actual doors drawn. And now what I have to do is use a 1/4 inch template. And so this is a circle template. And so these are drawn, these are used for a lot of things, but we use them for door swings to create the perfect quarter arc. And so I've got mine marked right here. You can't really see it. It's kind of messy. You can see mine, it says 1/4 inch, 5 inch turning radius. So that's for a 5 inch door. And then I've got one for C, you can see 1/4 inch door swing right here. I labeled it. So you can see here, if I line up, and you can see mine's just a little bit small, see? So if I line up the lines here with the lines here, I have a perfect 1/4 inch door swing, see? Look. And actually you can see here, that line is a little too close, okay? This is a great tool to make sure that everything is the right length because you can correct yourself. Oh, this one's a little better, see? And then this one here. And you can see there's guidelines. So all you have to do is line up this line, use the guidelines on the circle template to make sure that you're lining everything up properly. And your instructor has likely drawn these door swings just like this throughout his or her entire career. And so it's very, very easy to tell if it's not been done correctly. Okay, so now we have everything that we need as far as architectural features go. The last step now is to take a swing at this and go ahead and start to trace it in pen. Now, you also can, if you want to, wait till the very end. But in the meantime, you might want to grab yourself a Sharpie or a nice thin-tipped, fine-tipped pen, because in the next video we're gonna create our trace, and I like to use these. They bleed a little bit, but I like the permanence of them. So now at least you understand how to create all the breaks in your walls, the different door types. You've got a couple different door types here: bypass doors, swinging doors, and then of course your windows there too.